Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and what Ryan Mata uncovers in this wild footage isn't just shocking. This should inspire some political action, because this, I hate using the word treason, but this is pretty darn close. But before we dive in, I want to give a quick shout out over to my friends at Colonial Metals Group. They quite literally have the cure to Biden inflation and Harris economics, but more on that later. Now, let's dive in.
I'm not asking you for a sir. I'm gonna please step.
Don't ask me nothing.
I'm gonna ask you to please step out.
Oh what?
I'm gonna ask you to please
Oh what?
step out. Or I'm gonna call the police
Oh,
for
you
you.
call who the f you wanna call?
Go ahead. Hey, call the police for me real quick. Call 911.
You think you talking to? Okay, who you call?
911. Just call 911.
Chump?
We'll walk out. We're leaving. We're leaving. We're leaving.
You wanna
We're
call?
leaving.
Thank you, sir, for understanding.
You'll get what you looking for, me. Oh no.
I wish you touched me. I wish you touched me.
No, I'm gonna shoot.
I wish you would touch me, sir. Can you please step out of the building?
No.
Step out of the building. Don't worry. Just call 911. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. It's no problem. Hey, you're in a private building. You're in a private property.
Yeah.
You're looking at a 12-story minimum,
Yeah.
12-story building.
No. Way tougher than tough.
Excuse me, sir.
Way tougher than tough. Way tough. Keep talking. All you gotta do is keep talking.
Sir, you gotta be past that door.
You know what I mean?
Come on, step out of the property, please.
Message is right
I'll
here.
show you what a tough guy look
My
like.
name's Arturo.
I'll show you what tough
Step
guy
out of the
look
property,
like.
sir, please.
Oh, you gonna do what?
Please step out of
Call
the
the police. That's all you gonna do.
That's fine.
You gonna call the police.
That's fine.
Right, exactly. Stay in your motherfucking place. Chump.
This is America. This is treason. This is exactly. But see, these guys can walk into our building we
Yeah.
pay for, but we can't. You want to understand what treason is, America? This is what's called treason, right here. This whole building has been renovated to house illegal aliens.
Yes.
We just came several blocks away from U.S. citizens sleeping in redundant, torn down tents. You got a 15-story building they renovated. We just walked in behind two illegal aliens, they look like they're from Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
They get to walk in, and then we get accosted and yelled at, cursed at.
And then they call the police.
They call the police, and we just walked in thinking, well, can I have some of this free shit?
Right.
Can I have some of it? You and I spent $1,000 at an Airbnb. Can I stay in one of those rooms for 3 days for free?
That is wild, and like I said, this is borderline treason. However, treason is when you betray your country, you sell it out to another country. All right, treason, Benedict Arnold. Rebellion, that's what the South did. So I really like it when we get our terms right. And on a certain day in January, that was more sedition, that was more rebellion. That's not treason. Therefore, this is not treason, but is close. This is a betrayal of American taxpayers and American citizens. That these migrants, often illegal immigrants, get this protected status, are given money, and take away resources from people who already live in that city. Then, because that city is used to a certain amount of people or a certain amount of growth, there is now more stress on that system. There's more stress in the hospitals. There's more stress on the schools. There's more stress on the freeway. There's more stress on the water. You name it, if it's a part of the infrastructure of a city, there's going to be problems. That's kind of logical now, isn't it? It's like putting more weights on the scale. The thing's going to tilt more and more. It's really that simple. And yet, Democrats live in this ivory tower, this la-la land where they're protected by their wealth. They're protected by pretty much a political party and an entire political apparatus that is designed to prop them up, keep them happy, and keep them wealthy. Meanwhile, the rest of us peasants have to look up and wonder why these people get this protection. And then they build another ivory tower for these illegal migrants. Hey y'all, in case you haven't noticed, this has gone to this. It is absolutely insane. What the feds have done, constantly printing money, making sure that your dollar becomes less and less valuable, has hurt the economy and has probably hurt you in ways that you can't even imagine yet. That's why we partner with Colonial Metals Group. CEO Paul Stone and his associates understand the ins and outs of protecting your hard-earned dollars backed by gold, silver, and other precious metals. And they even have a limited time offer for first-time buyers, free gold and silver IRA accounts, insured storage for 5 years, up to $7,500 in free silver, and a personal safe to keep all the good stuff. So go check them out, link in the description below, or call this phone number to talk to one of the many lauded associates at Colonial Metals Group to protect your hard-earned dollars today. Well, where's my ivory tower? I'd like to join this. I want that free stuff. Give me something. And they won't. They won't because we're not the people in power. We're not the ones with a cultural edge. We're not the ones that are propped up by the CIA and the FBI. This is an attempt to do a whole bunch of things. And here are my theories on the subject. It's either A, there's a whole coalition of people who believe in the Cloward-Piven strategy. And this strategy was a theory thought up by some leftist thinkers in academia. And the whole gist of it is the idea that if you bring in a lot of people or you make a lot of people poor at one time, people rebel or the system collapses and people rebel. Well, when that happens, what do you offer the people? Do you offer them conservative ideals, or do you offer them more left-wing ideals? It's usually the left wing that wins out. So it is ultimately an attempt to put more Marxist ideas in charge by collapsing an entire city, by collapsing an entire system. So that's one theory, and I believe that one's probably the most prevalent, but I believe it's sort of a hodgepodge of all of this. Theory number 2. There is a huge problem that the United States is facing, and that is we're facing a population collapse. Now, I'm not talking about it's going to completely wipe out our GDP and it's going to cause us to go crazy. No, that's what's happening in South Korea, Japan, and arguably China and Russia. There's a huge drain of young people in those areas. And what that means is Social Security and Medicare is going to continue to rise in amount spent, which we're currently seeing right now. Now, the Republicans have been wanting to reform Social Security and Medicare pretty much ever since it got here, particularly in the late 90s. They were bandying that idea about. That did not go over too well with the voters. They talked about it again in the 2000s. That did not go over too well with voters. They briefly mentioned it recently, and the media firestorm was nuts, all because Tom Cotton dared mention it on camera. And so it's hard to reform something when the voters hear it and go, you are not touching my Social Security and Medicare. So what's the solution to that? Well, you bring in more people to replace and to start paying Social Security and Medicare taxes. That's not the most optimal strategy, but the most optimal strategy is to make it easier to have families, which the U.S. for some reason is not interested in doing. There's some of Orban's policies over in Hungary. They're working. They're pretty darn good ideas. But I ultimately believe it's a combination of these two theories. There are people in charge that have looked into their crystal ball, realize they can't really fix anything, so let's just import a lot of people. And we're more lucky than Europe, because Europe has had to import from Africa. We get to import from Latin America, which means we're getting more Catholics, we're getting people with a decent work culture. Can't quite be said for what's happening in Europe. So ultimately, I think the plan is, it's not to replace us, although some people want that to happen in leftist circles. I don't fully aspire to that theory. But the Cloward-Piven one, that I can definitely see being worked in as well. And that's something that terrifies me. When I first heard about it, when I watched Glenn Beck in high school, I thought, no, this is ridiculous. They don't really want this, do they? And the more he argued, the more I realized he was right. And not 15 years later, those exact same ideas are bubbling up again, and we're starting to see a slow collapse of cities, particularly in Chicago, particularly in Philadelphia, and in Springfield, not Springfield from The Simpsons, but Springfield, Ohio. This is on purpose. And I believe there's better ways to go forward to deal with this population problem. Ultimately, Americans deserve better than what we're getting. And When our government cares more about migrant hotels than they do the average rank and file American, that's not just messed up. That's not just disgusting. It is a betrayal of the voter base of this country. And a lot of people are starting to realize it. And we're about to see an entirely new political coalition. And quite honestly, I can't wait for what happens next. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed this segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.